What's up, guys? Today's guest is Bibby, one of the founding members of Catfish of the Barmen. I couldn't wait to have a chat with him. I'm a huge fan of Catfish. Been putting some posts up on social media. They've been doing so well, over 100,000 views now already. He is touring the Balcony album in the UK right now. Trust me, I looked at the shows. There's a show near you, I can promise. Look, there's Aberdeen, Irvine, Dumfries, Stornoway, Stirling, Mordor, Glasgow, Wigan, sold out, Liverpool, Newcastle, Sheffield, so much more. Wrexham. Make sure you go and get some tickets now. It is linktree/BillyBibby20, which is linktr.ee/BillyBibby20. Go get some tickets. Enjoy the show. Bye. Because we can't assume that everyone knows who Billy Bibby is and even who Catfish and the Bottlemen are. Part of 100% modern history, British indie folklore. Founder member of Catfish and the Barmen, a band that went around from writing songs in a small town in North Wales to, they're now selling out arenas in the UK and beyond. Long before the platinum records and the huge festival crowds, it was just a couple of teenagers figuring out their music together. And one of those teenagers was today's guest, Billy Bibby. Wanted to welcome you to the show. It's been a few weeks. I know we were pretty much floored with illness, mate. But honest to God, for me personally, I'm not Catfish are my top 5 ever bands, man. Got Catfish tattoos on me and everything. And, that Balcony album now it's nostalgic. I hate to say nostalgic because it makes me think that album was ages ago, but it really is. But I do genuinely, and I try and be as unbiased as possible, I think it is in the top 3 ever British indie albums, in my opinion. And we have one of the guys who was a part of that, and I'm absolutely buzzing to have you on, mate, honestly.
It's amazing to hear those words, and I still find it a bit of a shock when people say those kind of things, about the album. As much as we had confidence, as young lads growing up, that we were gonna, we'd watch Oasis and watch Oasis interviews, and Liam Gallagher and Noel speak about how bigging themselves up, how good they are, and how the best band in the world and all that. We'd always try and big ourselves up in interviews and stuff before anything took off, and we were like, we're going to be the best band in the world, and everyone be like, yeah, right, as if you live in a small town in Wales in the middle of nowhere, you're never going to make it and all that. So we had a lot going against us from the start, but we all just believed in ourselves, from the beginning. Pretty much, we started off like any other band does, doing covers gigs and things like that. Our first gig was at a little pub called the King's Head, on at the bottom of the Great Orme, for people that know the area. And we just did at the time, I think it was the Fratellis and Arctic Monkeys and the Kooks and all them lot were just making waves, and so we were doing covers of all them songs, bit of Chelsea Dagger and all that sort of stuff, and then but we quickly moved on. A lot of bands were holding on to that fact that people were dancing and singing those covers, but we were like, that's not what we want to be doing for the rest of our lives. So straight away got in the studio after a few of those covers gigs and started writing our own songs. So we quickly made that progression from doing covers into writing our original material, and we're quickly pushing that, because we knew we had to sort of act pretty quickly. Even though we were young, we felt like we had loads of time. It was, for us, it was about just writing songs. When you're having experiences as teenagers, going out for the first time, drinking, first girlfriends and all that sort of stuff. You've got lots to write about and talk about. So that's what we did.
How did you guys kind of first meet? Because I'm aware of the lore of Catfish. Of you were apparently like a bit of a big brother figure to Van in terms of you taught him how to play guitar, didn't you?
Yeah, I taught him the basics and that. I pretty much taught myself really, from a young age.
What? No teacher at all? You just picked up a guitar and taught yourself?
Yeah, I had a few lessons. But it was all like tab stuff that it'd be like one lesson a week in school, and But I was then picking up chord books and the Beatles chord books and Elvis chord. And once I'd learnt a G and an E minor and a C and a D or whatever, I just kind of went from there, and it was all learning about all the chords and that, and then doing lead guitar stuff. I don't know, it was just I've always had that sort of melody in the mind of how to sort of play those melodies. And I don't profess to be a virtuoso guitarist. I'm still still think I'm pretty crap on guitar. But I think it doesn't, when you're creating a band, it's not really always about how good you are on your instrument. It's more about that chemistry as a band. When it comes together and you start writing songs, have you got that chemistry? And I think from an early start in the band's history, we had quite a lot of chemistry together. But yeah, I did, going back to that, I did teach him a few chords and that, and he just, like me basically, once he'd learnt a few chords, he went off and did his own thing and started learning himself then. But yeah, I just give him a little helping hand, and then because he was kind of in awe of me at first about how you can play guitar, you can sing and that, and he just wanted to do it because I was doing it. And he was in my brother's year in school and best friends with him, so like you said, that kind of big brother thing was what I was at first. And he just ran with it. Same with Ben, the bass player as well. He was in my year in school, Ben, and he couldn't play any instruments at all, and I just sort of taught him a bit on guitar. But because me and Van were the guitarists already, we were like, well, we've got two guitarists. You're gonna have to
get on the bass.
You're gonna have to learn bass, mate.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happens in bands, isn't it? It's like you're gonna have to learn the bass, get on the bass, chuck over there. But he looks cool playing the bass, anyway, so it's fine. Like,
that's what we said to him. You've got the hair, mate.
Yeah.
You've got the
bassist hair, mate. 100%.
Yeah, all you got to do there is stand there and look cool and take all the women.
Yeah, 100%. First of all, going on what you said before, I've watched you play guitar. You're definitely not shit, first and foremost. Second of all, you touched on chemistry there. And I know you said you guys had good chemistry, but take me back to that time. Like, you're back then, you kind of did know, like, how did you know you had good chemistry? Was there hype around you guys? Were people talking about you guys? I know you were doing covers at first, but when you kind of started doing your own kind of stuff, that must have been harder to kind of get those gigs, maybe, because you're not doing those covers that people automatically want to hear. You're starting to do your own stuff,
Yeah, I think we didn't really have anyone that was backing us. It was apart from a few schoolmates and that. But I think every band has got their schoolmates following when they're teenagers. They're like they come and follow you around for a year or two whilst they've got that sort of time to do it, and they should give you a bit of support while you're there. But apart from that, really, we were just on our own, and we just built our own hype, really. I don't know. We just had that self-confidence within ourselves to
fake it till you make it.
Yeah, basically, I think a lot, and a lot of bands that do make it do have to do a bit of that fake it till you make it business, because if people pick up on a bit of that, lack of confidence and that, they jump on it, and it's difficult to sway people, do you know what I mean, and have that influence on people then. So yeah, we kind of just winged it a bit at first, really. We managed to just talk to the right people when, in Manchester and Liverpool, and there was a little bar in Lee just outside of Manchester called Bar Bliss, which we used to play a lot. We befriended a promoter called Russ Wood, and he was like, yeah, I'll get you gigs, I'll get you this and that, and he managed to get us a few gigs in this place. And then they were having bands on like Twisted Wheel at the time, who were supporting Oasis at Heaton Park. So Johnny Brown from Twisted Wheel come and do an acoustic set, and they put us on support slot. And then that's where we met our manager then, Craig Vegas, who was the roadie for Twisted Wheel, and that's when he was like, I see something in you guys, and he became our manager in the end. And then Reverend and the Makers as well, they did a gig there. So it was like, that was where we kind of like kept going back there and supporting these bigger artists, and we built a little following there then as well. And we just started writing, 5, 6 songs set, got it all ready, and they knew every word to all the songs. These fan base from Lee, and then a year later, we'd written a whole new set because we were just like, we've got them. They're our first songs. They're not. That's not what we want to tour for the rest of our lives. We want to write better songs. So I think for any bands sort of listening to this as well, I think the thing is to not get too attached to your first songs that you write, because you can write some decent tracks and that, but the first songs you write, unless you're absolutely unbelievable, they're not always going to be amazing songs. And you're also still finding your sound at that point. You know what I mean? We were copying a lot of other bands at that point, like Stereophonics and what have you, taking a lot from them, and what you call sort of rip-offs. So we had to find our own sound at that point. So we came back with a whole new set a year later, and they were like, "Don't know any of these songs, but what's this shite?" But we were like, "Just stick with it, stick with us," and and it obviously paid dividends, because we knew we could write better than that. So.
Yeah, I get that. From those like loyal fans, that's one of my biggest frustrations. Because for me, like for instance, Morrissey released a new album last week, and I've always been a huge fan of the Smiths and Morrissey. And when one of my favorite artists release an album, I cannot wait. But some people just get so stuck in the same songs. Whereas for me, when one of my favorite artists plays their new songs live, that's the whole point. Otherwise, how do they not get bored of hearing the same things over and over again? I feel more sorry for the band, obviously, but yeah, no, so that's hilarious. But during those kind of unsigned years, what were the like tough elements there? Were there any like tough elements at all, or?
Yeah, there were, but I think that's you've got to look back with those memories fondly, because otherwise they were at the time, yeah, because we'd have we didn't have any sort of, we'd get in the back of this 2-seater van, those like Renault Kangoos or something like that, and it would just be like a bit of space in the back. We'd all jump in. I shouldn't be saying this really, but no health and safety there, like. But and Van's dad would drive us in the Renault, and we'd be squished up against all the gear, like pressed our faces against the back door.
That's quality.
And we'd all jump in, and then we'd be sort of playing songs in the back as well, and writing songs while we're travelling. And in the winter time it's freezing. It's you've got getting frostbite in the back of the van, and there's times when you've got no money for a hotel or whatever. You've got to drive back home from London at 4 a.m. after staying as late as you can, and then you realise, we've actually got nowhere to stay. We've got to drive back. And I remember one time me and Van driving back from London at 3, 4 in the morning, and we both had to swap driving every 10 minutes. We were that tired. We couldn't keep our eyes open for 10 minutes, so we were swapping we literally pulling over after 15 minutes, then swapping, pulling over. So yeah, there were difficult times, but we were doing it and not getting paid as well. So I've said it in a lot of podcasts before, or a lot of other interviews, that we used to do pub gigs, all original material. We wouldn't do the covers that people wanted us to hear. We'd just do our own songs. We had about 30 songs, ready to go, all original stuff. And that's doing the pub tour is how we made money to go and do all the proper tour, proper venues. But obviously still losing out massively money wise. But that's
how much, like, out of interest doing those like pub shows, bands like that making, because you're looking 4, 5 members, even smaller bands of 3 members, you're sharing all that, the fuel, everything involved.
Yeah.
Is there actually, like, for other bands wanting to get into it in the grind, like, how much are you making then? Do you know what I mean?
No, you're not making any money. Yeah, it's just paying for your fuel and a few hotels, and that's it really. And if you can get a bit of a helping hand from, say, parents at the time, we were fortunate enough to, my mum's single parent. She supported me all the way in terms of, we didn't have a lot of money financially, but she gave us, she believed in it, and to be fair, all the parents of the band believed in it as well. Van's mum and dad were brilliant. they helped us along the way. So they were our biggest supporters as well. And you do have to have that at times, and that support. So yeah, we all still owe them a fair bit of money.
I'm surely they've been paid back now. Fucking hell, Jesus.
Well,
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Do you know what I mean?
you can never quite. Well, Van always said he was gonna get his mum a jacuzzi and that, and I'm not. I don't know whether that's ever happened, but we'll.
Oh, poor woman, get her a jacuzzi, man. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, poor woman. But let's talk about the actual Catfish sound, okay? Because when you're looking back at those early songs from the balcony, you're playing it now, so you're fine tuned. You're back in, the mindset of that album. Do you know what I mean? What part of that, early Catfish sound do you feel like yourself and your guitar helped define?
I don't know. It's a weird one because I get so many messages saying how did you create the sound of that album and the early stuff, and for me it was just we were just obsessed with reverb in the early days. We went from, because you get a lot of the indie bands from 2004, 5, 6, 7. They were quite dry. You know what I mean? The guitar.
Yeah, they were very like tinny. I used to find some of the bands like it was all not a bad thing. It was all recorded in a garage or it just the sound quality wasn't great. Whereas the balcony, you've hit on something massive there. Even though it sounded bigger. Do you know what I mean? It sounded electric. Do you know what I mean? It was it had a huge sound to it. Yeah, it's interesting you say that actually.
Well, I think because obviously we're classed as indie as well, but we never liked that phrase really indie. We always wanted to be more like we're rock and roll,
God, I said indie about 8 times.
Yeah. Well, no, I say it myself. I say it myself now as well. But it's not. I don't like. I even class us as indie, and I've kind of grown to sort of just accept that name. But we tried to stray away from it a bit when we first. When we were first coming through, because as much as
it was very saturated, wasn't it? At that time, if you remember, it was like you had so many indie bands coming out with the same haircut, the same guitars, wearing the same clothes. So I get why you wanted to kind of steer away from that kind of stereotype.
Yeah, we were inspired by it, and we used to love the Kooks and the Fratellis, like I've mentioned before. We did all the covers, that they played when we first started. But then we looked back at a bit before then, and looked at things like U2 and Oasis and bands that were making a bit more of a wall of sound. You know what I mean? A bit more of reverb and guitar amps. If you look at the later Catfish live performances, they've got like loads of amps behind them on the stage because they wanted to show that presence. And that's the way we were going when I was in there as well. Was to basically just try and blow everyone's heads off, but reverb was a massive thing as well. We were obsessed with reverb, and I was as a guitarist, and just to fill that space that you have from a lot of indie stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm looking what you just said now. A couple of 2 or 3 songs on that album I would argue are rock and roll, though. The Cocoon especially. Again, it's harder to find, but when you hear those songs on the album, it was almost like they were made to be played in arenas and really not small kind of venues. They were huge songs, and when you kind of listen to those songs back now, which are obviously huge these days, did you know something was special about them? There's a lot of good songs. I mean, every song on that album is a certified banger, but those 3 especially, you must have known something was huge about them.
Yeah, I think especially when he brought Cocoon. To be fair, Van had just been to America at that point. That was one of the later songs on the album in terms of when it was written. So it was he brought that back from New York. He'd been writing with I think he'd been writing with Marcus from Mumford and Sons, because Ben, the keyboard player for Mumford and Sons, or pianist. I don't know what he wants to be classed as, but he was the guy that was in charge of the label that we were on, Communion Records, before we signed to Island Records. So he introduced him to Marcus. They went out to New York, did a bit of writing, and he came back with Cocoon. He'd written that whilst he was over there. And it was, it was one of them songs when he brought it in and the chorus came out, it was like massive. I said that's going to be sung by loads of fans in an arena one day. We were
said
right.
that then?
Yeah, we could just hear it. We could hear that being sung back to loads of people. And because we were as well, we'd been signed to Communion, so we knew things were moving as a band, so we knew that we would the fan base was growing then as well. So at that point, so when he brought that song, it was almost like the tip of the iceberg in terms of the album. We were like, that's definitely going to be one of the singles. Was it a single?
So behind the scenes, well, no, that was a single, Kathleen, and I think, oh God, I'm on the spot.
I think a lot of them. I think they released a lot off that album. I think Homesick. They released Homesick at the end as well, I think.
Let's actually have a look here. The Balcony, Catfish, the Bottlemen.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. I'm fairly sure. Yeah. So it was bloody hell. Pretty much every song. Seven songs. Homesick, Rango, Kathleen, Fallout, Cocoon, Pacify, and Hourglass. So pretty much every. But the album was. I feel like. It is not just now retrospectively looking back once those songs have had time to breathe and become massive. At the time, I remember listening to it. I think I listened to that. A lot of people did from the FIFA soundtrack. When the song got into the FIFA soundtrack, I remember thinking, fucking hell, there's not a shit song on this album. Do you know what I mean? Like, every song deserved to be a single. So it doesn't surprise me, really, that there's 7 singles.
Yeah, it's mad. I think, it was, we were kind of trying to just what album is it that released? It's an album that another indie rock album that they just released loads of tracks off it. What was it?
No, Catfish.
No, another band. I can't think who now. It might.
Oh God, you're testing me here.
But they were just banger after banger on it, and I can't think now what band it was. God, my mind's gone blank.
Yeah.
But we were kind of like, let's try and do that, just pop them out, even though back they weren't really hitting the charts then. Indie music was a few years past hitting the charts, so it was. Yeah. But at the same time, we were just like, let's just get them out. The budget in terms of videos and that wasn't massive, so we weren't spending loads and loads of money on videos. So we were just like, might as well release them. They're all. We think they're all. We kind of made all the tracks 3.5 minutes, so they were all kind of ready to be a single, be on radio. Whereas, I think if I had more of a say in the process of it, I liked personally having some songs a bit longer than others and different parts and that, because if you listen to some of the earlier stuff before the Balcony, so some of it is I don't know who's released it on YouTube, but someone's released a lot of the B-sides on YouTube from before then.
Yeah, they're incredible.
Yeah, if you
a lot of people. Well, I'll get to the questions from the fans, but a lot of people are like, release the fucking unreleased songs. It's like, do you know what I mean? Because they're so good. I love them all. In fact, I don't think I could actually name even the other 2 albums. I have never listened to a Catfish song and thought, I don't like this. So yeah, like I get what you're saying with the longer songs and maybe experimenting more in terms of the actual creative process of that first album. Like, what was it? I know obviously the chemistry was great when you were in Llandudno playing the pubs. When you were in the stress of the studio and the labels and everything, was the creative process still there? Was the chemistry still good?
Yeah, the chemistry was still good, but obviously when labels get involved, you've got to. We were trying to make them happy as well, and they're looking at it as a cash cow. You know, they're looking at they're looking at it, how do we make money out
Well,
of
it's a
it?
business for them, isn't it? You are
Yeah,
literally a
yeah.
business, yeah.
As much as it is, but at the same time, labels are terrible business models as well. At the same time, you know, they're not quite. They've never been set up right for the bands, I don't think, as well. I think
Yeah, I was speaking to do you remember Igloo and Hartley, the ones who sung In This City? That song was like, and I found that round here in this
yeah,
city. So I interviewed
yeah,
him, and I was
yeah,
speaking when I interviewed him last year. I've kept in touch ever since. But he was talking, he's gone independent because for the same reasons. I think a lot of people, although labels are where people, it's the same with football. Like you get a professional contract with Chelsea, I'm done, like I've made it. It's the same
yeah,
thing in music.
yeah,
Whereas the amount of horror stories now I've heard, because you are literally a commodity to them.
yeah,
You
yeah.
could be the best band in the world. You could be fucking Oasis. You are still a commodity. Like you're disposable. They are literally, and it's fair enough. It's their business to use you. But at the same time, I can get why some bands, you know, don't get along, or people specifically don't get along in that environment. Was that the case for yourself?
I didn't really have long enough in that environment to really make a judgment on that. It was, but yeah, but you could tell, you know, you could tell we were with a smaller label for a long time, and to be fair, the smaller label felt right because they you know they were more hands on with us as a band. But they were like a stepping stone to Island Records as well. So because they had good you know friendships in there. So we knew it was going to go that way, and we wanted it to go that way because you know ultimately they've got a good record of making bands successful at Island Records. Um, yeah, it is a tricky one because, like you said, you are a bit of a commodity, and I think if you're not successful on that first album, it can be over before you've even just got started.
Hmm.
But because I think the label saw that longevity of their first album doing well, and it's the first album stayed in the charts it had in the top 40 charts. It's been in there for over 150 weeks.
Is it really?
That first album, yeah, which is up there with some of the biggest albums that have ever been in the UK. So even though it's not sold. Like, well, it's still sold well, but it's not sold the kind of the amounts that some of these big albums have. But in terms of being in the top 40, it's been in there over 150 weeks in the UK top 40. So it's for it to have that longevity and hold on like it did. You know, it only made the 10 it was its peak, but then to hold on in there for so long, it just obviously showed that people were listening, and then they were telling their mates, and then you know as time's gone on, they've had kids and what have you. So it's kind of become a cult classic, you know, like like the Strokes'
Oh,
first album or the Oasis.
I would say that you can't. It's too big. I think it's too big to be a cult. I think it's bigger than
Yeah,
that. I see what you mean, but 600,000 albums sold
yeah,
is insane. Like, and this
yeah,
was kind of like, well, it was definitely during the age of Spotify was started during that time. Well, it had started for a few years. You know, piracy and everything. To be selling 600,000 albums is insane. It was like 2 times platinum. I'm just looking now. It's 13th in the US rock album charts. And,
right.
you know, what you said earlier about emulating stereophonics and stuff like that, that's something even they like struggled was to kind of go overseas in those charts. The album was huge, but let's talk about obviously. I would have. What was the actual timeline of you leaving the band? Because it must have been before it properly exploded, kind of commercially. And I wanted to kind of know emotionally what was that moment like for yourself.
Yeah, it was. It was a long, long time ago now. So it seems a little
What is it
bit
like?
like
12 years ago now? Is it?
12 years, yeah. So it seems a bit like a sort of. It feels like a different part of my life. Well, it was a different part of my life, but it feels like that part of my life was like part one, and then ever since then is part two, sort of thing. So that it was that big of a thing that it kind of feels like I've had two different lifetimes. As still kind of hopefully class myself as being fairly young, even though I feel like I'm getting on. But yeah, that them two parts of life, that from 16 to the age of 24, 25, and then from 25 to what I am now, 35, it's kind of two completely different lives and careers, really. But yeah,
I get what you're saying, Billy. Sorry to interrupt, mate, but your part, like my part one, was fucking going to school in uni. You were in Catfish and the Bottlemen, mate. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's a huge thing to walk away from. And I've seen enough interviews of yourself, and I've seen how talented you are, and you've done some really good stuff since. And I know that doesn't define who you are, but at the same time, emotionally at the time, or I'm not trying to draw like a really emotive response out of you here. It's just I've genuinely find the move quite brave, and I just want to know what it was like during that time. When you left Catfish and the Bottlemen.
yeah, it was a bit strained in terms of the relationships between me and certain members in the band.
Do you not speak about it then, like in the public, or like I get that it's dignifying that you don't, but at this point, I think everyone kind of knows.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I don't know. I don't know what I don't. I don't want to ever sort of get myself in any sort of hot shit.
You're not getting yourself in hot shit here. Like a lot of people, like we kind of know, like we don't know, we weren't there. At the same time, it is what it is. Like it was probably a case of I don't know what it was, but time's passed now. I'm sure if you saw them in the pub, you'd have a pint. Do you know what I mean? But was it just a case of personality clash or creative differences? You wanted to do something, they wanted to do something else, or
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't creative differences. No, I was more than happy to be playing on those albums and would have done for many, many, many years. But the way things were going were, and I've said this on another podcast that and Bondi's who replaced me on guitar has come out and bravely put a post up on Instagram and things, or and that statement in itself kind of explains quite a lot. And
you agree with it, like what he kind of said?
Yeah, because well, not that I agree with it because I wasn't in the band at that point, but I get where it's coming from. I get where he's coming from because I've experienced similar things whilst being a part of the band, and I know that's gonna piss fans off and that, because when you're so fixed on a band and people that are in it still, you want to back them all the way and back them to the hilt. And
I don't know. I don't think that is the case anymore. I think not anymore. Don't get me wrong. Like I love Catfish. I've seen them quite a few times. I've seen the proper fanatics, and every band does have them. But I think they're more disillusioned now. They're kind of gearing to being disillusioned because, and I mean, you probably, well, whether you want to or not, have followed Catfish over the years, what they've been like. And for me, there's this like weird air of mystery around the band now. It's they kind of like tours appear and I go mental, like tickets straight away, everyone goes mad, shows sell out, and they just seem to disappear. Like I don't like if he lives in a cave or something, like he just has a way of just coming into the shows, he does the shows, he disappears. And do you know? And there's just no explanation. And there was the Dublin shows recently, where it was like cancelled on the day, and like no one said anything. Like there was no communication. Do you see what I mean? Though there's that. Like there should be communication between bands and people, and I feel like the fanatics. And if you are worried about upsetting anyone, you probably aren't. I think people just want answers at this point. They want to know what's going on with one of their favorite bands.
Yeah, I'd see. I mean, I can't. I don't think even I can say, or Bondi or Bob can even really know what's going on. But I think the only thing we can say is obviously the experiences we've had with the people that are still in the band are that they were difficult. They were difficult to get on with, as when you're in each other's, being in a band, you're in each other's pockets for quite a
for
long
sure.
period of time, on tour and that. So even if your personalities are different, only marginally different, you're gonna have at some point a bit of a blowout because you can't. You're never going to get on wholly 100% all the time, every time. But it was just, yeah. I think a lot of the answers have really kind of just they've come out themselves without any of us having to say anything because of that mystery. In a way, you kind of see it as like, well, there's no effort being made to address the public and the fans about tours that have been cancelled last minute and no posts about new music coming out, even though they just threw out that song Showtime out of nowhere, and it was really strange. Then there's been other stories that have surfaced on on Reddit and what have you that I've read and seen, but I don't know 100% whether those kind of things are true. So I don't obviously want to throw those things as gospel, because you don't know. A lot of things get made up, and if you're not in the band itself, then you don't know that. But all I can say is, from the early days, when we started, Van was a really, he had a great humour about him. He was great with the crowd. He was brilliant at interacting with the people that were watching us at the time, and at the end of the gigs, we'd make a massive effort to speak to everybody after gigs and that, and he had the gift of the gab, in terms of how he addressed people and how he made people laugh and that, and even on tour, it was brilliant being with him because he was so funny, and we were just kind of taking everything as it comes at us, anything that came at us, we dealt with it. Tricky situations and that, or whatever it was, we kind of just threw ourselves headfirst into it. But whatever's kind of changed since then, I don't know. And like I said, the reason why I left and things was because of that thing. Those personalities started to change, and everything became so serious to a point where it didn't become enjoyable anymore. And that's the thing for me, is if I'm doing something, I want to be professional, but also enjoy the process, because if you can be the best accountant in the world or the best whatever solicitor, but if you're not enjoying what you're doing, what's the point if you're just going to do that for the sake of it? And it wasn't. Them last few months weren't enjoyable, really. It was really stressful.
And it wasn't just arguments, anxiety, like conflict and stuff like that. It was
petty stuff, really. It was no one big thing, like when people say what happened. There's no real one thing that happened. It was just accumulation of things that have happened over that period of time, and the best thing to do at that point was to just go our separate ways. So that's what I did, really.
No, of course, but it's someone you grew up with at the end of the day, and it's the last thing we'll kind of touch on with it, because I know you've got loads of other stuff to kind of talk about. But for someone who you grew up, you started a band, that it's a very beautiful thing to, a process. Do you know what I mean? And he's gone from, as you said, just having so much charisma, fan interaction, to like basically only existed on stage. Like it's almost like he just teleports to another dimension as soon as he just disappears.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any idea? Is he okay? Like, where does he go? Because genuinely, at this point, people are worried about him.
It's a strange one. It is a strange one. I don't honestly. No other band at that size functions like that, like they do.
No.
So that's what makes it weird in itself, and maybe that's where some fans kind of find it intriguing, or whatever, the fact that they're like that. But then I also see a lot of fans that have furious with that because they don't know what's going on and they want to, they want to know what things are happening. And obviously when you're cancelling tours for what seems to be like no real reason, you've got no explanation and no real apology as well. It's not fair. It's not fair on the fans that have really made the band what they are today. So I don't agree with any of that behaviour really. It's just
It's not on, really, is it,
it's
to treat
not it's
fans like
not
that?
no it's a shame that it went that way because like I said in the early days we would do everything we could to make sure the fans felt like they were one of us. But yeah, it's a very dysfunctional thing at the moment. Whatever's going on there.
I think sometimes people just fall out of love with what they're doing. But
Yeah.
when it's something that gives you, a bit of cash, a bit of fame, it's hard to step away
Mm.
from something like that. Maybe it's that. But look, I digress. We could keep thinking about it and trying to assume what it is for years. How
Yeah.
did it feel in yourself now? Like you're on your own, you're solo. Was it kind of refreshing, or were you scared? Were you like, fuck, what do I do now? Or were you prepared for it?
No, I wasn't prepared. No, because there was no real sort of like plan to leave the band. There was definitely no preparation. So I spent a long time not really playing my guitar for a long time. Didn't have any inspiration to want to play it. Bit of a yeah. It was a bad few months after leaving the band. A bit like a bad breakup in a relationship for people that want to kind of relate it to something if they've not been in the band before. It was like that really, but yeah. So I spent a long time contemplating whether I wanted to do something else, rather than music. Because when you've put all that effort and work and sacrifice into something, and then it all just goes to nothing. It's like, what why did I? Because at that point, the album hadn't even been released. It hadn't even, I'd recorded on it, done all my guitar parts on it and everything, but it wasn't even released. It was just about to be released. So it was a very unusual time to be leaving a band, just before a debut album gets released. So I
Once
suppose
it
that,
got released and you're out of the band, how did it kind of feel knowing you helped build those foundations and you're almost looking outside, do you know what I mean, through the window at
yeah,
this
it was
point?
very, very odd, very odd. I suspect there's not many musicians that have actually experienced that really, to the point where they've left the band just before the release
Just
on
before,
on a
yeah.
major label. Um, I can't imagine that's happened to many people. But and it must have been tough for Bondi as well because I've not spoke to him loads, but since he's left the band we've had a few words back and forward, and I've met with him in person since then as well, and for him it must have been a bit of a tough one because yeah, he's joined a band that are about to become massive, but he's also getting some kind of praise for an album that he's not been a part of, so that I can tell that he's not told me personally, but I can tell that would have been tough for him. Um,
Bit of
you know,
imposter syndrome.
yeah, in a way, yeah, and then until that second and third album were his own, where he was able to put his own stamp on the guitar parts. Um, I think it must have been difficult for him as well.
Mm.
So yeah, it was strange that period of time, really strange, and I didn't have any plans of what I was going to do after that. It was only to a few months later, because I settled into the lead guitarist role, and that was my role in Catfish, and I wasn't like a lot of people say, oh, you wanted more, you wanted to be a singer, you wanted to do this, you wanted to do that, and I was like, no, that wasn't why I left the band. I was more than happy playing lead guitar on that and help him with any sort of musical parts in the band and things. Um, I was happy doing all that. What that wasn't the reason why I left. Um, So then going into doing my own thing was scary because I hadn't written a song since the early days of Catfish, where we used to write a song each, and then we bring it into the studio together, and we'd learn my song, and then we'd learn his song. So we hadn't done that for a few years because it was all his songs coming in. I'd settled into my role as lead guitarist, so I was really rusty when it came to writing my own songs. You know what I mean? So getting back into that took a long time. But I enjoyed that process once I started getting into it again. And
Yeah, I've had the Substitute's been in my driving playlist for ages, mate. It's a really good
which
song.
one?
Like, Substitute.
Substitute.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Oh,
that was
mate, you
yeah.
made me shit myself there. I thought
Yeah.
I'd go right. Mate, I knew it.
Substitute.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's been in my like. I've got
Yeah.
a driving playlist, pretty much mostly dad rock and indie.
Yeah.
But I think like when you're a fan of a band and people split away, you actually do try and want to listen to them and support them. But with a Rye Smiles, like that, like your voice is really good in the song. It's like raspy, but also easy to listen to. And I don't know, I feel like it's really underrated. Like with the Rye Smiles, was it more of a passion project, or like experimentation, or did you want it to become big after that kind of experience of seeing what happened with Catfish? Like, what was your kind of where did you want it to go, kind of thing?
Yeah, we wanted just what Catfish wanted.
Yeah,
We wanted to be just as big. You look at successes of people that have left bands, like Robbie Williams or whatever, and whoever it is that's gone on after a success of a big band to try and make on. After a lot of people say, whether they either say, oh, you wanted more to do with songwriting with Catfish, that's why you left. That's not true. Or you wanted to, you were scared of the fame, like say fucking the bass player from Arctic Monkeys that left. No, that's not true either.
yeah.
Nothing to do with that. You were doing drugs. No, that wasn't it.
It's like a checklist, isn't it? They go
it's like
through.
checklist.
Yeah.
Then there was rumours coming out that I'd slept with Bob's mum or something like that, which was ridiculous.
Did you?
Because
No, I'm joking.
Van had said something stupid in an interview. When we used to do interviews when we were younger, he used to say
I've heard
he
them,
used
mate.
to make
Yeah,
all sorts of crap up.
I've watched them, mate. He was a proper prankster, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a prankster, and he used to make all sorts of shit up. And he said once that I'd slept with Bob's mum, and I was like, that's gonna fucking stick. That why are you saying
Yeah.
stuff like that? Even people saying stuff like that. He slept with the drummer's mum. And I was like, fucking hell, come on.
He's such a knobhead. Why would you do
some
that?
credit. Give me so all the checklists, yeah, they're all crossed. They're all false reasons why I left, but they all came out, and then yeah, what were we talking about? Yeah, so
Fuck knows, mate. You started talking about Van McCann and said you slept with your people's mums. I'm like, what has happened to this interview?
just quashing all them rumours.
Yeah. Didn't sleep with a mum. I'm not a drug addict. But people want to draw the narratives. It goes back to what you were saying. The size of the band. I know they're like much bigger now, but even when you were involved, they were really big. And just like people now are trying to draw their own narratives, like, oh, they're not doing this because Van is this or that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the same. People almost need to kind of like give them closure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas people are probably like, I'm surprised talking to you of how untoxic you are about it. Because for me, mate, I'd be fucking so annoyed.
Yeah.
I would have, but like you've always carried yourself like really well, like really dignified. You're a much better man than me, mate. If I'm honest, like I just
I don't know what. Yeah, you can't live life like that because it's. I'm looking at it from a point of view where, and I wouldn't play any Catfish songs really. I mean, I played Pacifier from quite an early start after I left the band. But other than that song, I didn't play any Catfish songs for a long time after I left. because I just couldn't
Bit
bring
raw,
myself
isn't
to play.
it? It's a
It was
bit
a bit
raw as well.
raw, but at the same time, then after a few years, um, I then just I went to a stage where I looked back fondly on everything that happened
Mm.
before that, before I left, and I thought, yeah, I've kind of got out at the right time, because if I'd have left it a little bit longer, then I might have been such a found it such a difficult thing to talk about, and I might have then just been in a bad way, like you said, toxic, felt a bit
Mm.
more toxic about it. But the way I came out, I think, was good enough time to sort of then still look back fondly on a lot of the memories as well, and still do, and be able to do this tour that I'm doing now, um, in May and June. So I'm really, really looking forward to that after,
Yeah, I was gonna say this tour. So everyone listening, it's May and June. You've got Liverpool, Newcastle, Sheffield, Leeds, London. Is that Isle of Wight? I imagine it's
Isle of Wight, yeah.
Portsmouth.
Yeah,
Manchester in June, Wrexham, up to Wrexham, Preston, and Leicester. So, guys, if you're listening, go grab tickets. Go listen to him sing songs from arguably the best rock and roll album
you can
ever.
think.
Do you feel like pressure when you're singing them? I know you said you've gone out and leveled it up, which is great because you've gone out in Glasgow and stuff like that. You've done it, and you're thinking, right, this is good. How do I make this better? You've gone and worked with the original guy from the balcony for percussion. How does it feel when you're out there?
I'll tell you in a couple of weeks when I do. I've got a warm up show in Atherton.
I thought you'd already done a couple on the Instagram.
No, no,
What was I looking at?
I've done no, I've not done any official sort of gigs with
Oh,
either.
is that this year you're doing Glasgow and Aberdeen in September this year?
That's September, yeah. So that's after this May and
Right,
June
I
tour.
thought it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
music
that's
journalist.
yeah. Need homework.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Shite journalism. No,
that's
but
that's
so you've done a few
latest.
warm up gigs then.
Warm up gigs are becoming. I've got one in a couple of weeks, so that'll be the first one. I've done a few of these tracks, um, in pub gig situations, just to give me a test, but only a couple of tracks, not the whole set. Um, and it's amazing, even when I play certain pubs around Wales, how many people are singing back the songs. It's crazy. Even like pubs filled with old people and that, and you look at the faces in the crowd, and you'll think no one's going to know any Catfish songs here. But as soon as I start playing some of them, they you get people singing them every time now. So that in itself is just weird. Is weird. It's almost like when I always played Dakota by Stereophonics, and
Banger.
that always gets people singing. But if I play Cocoon now, it's almost got the same sort of thing happening. So it's crazy, when people sing that back as well. I just still can't quite get my head around that, but
It's
yeah,
huge, that's why.
yeah,
It's a massive song.
it's mad, it's mad. I still see it, obviously, probably because obviously I came out of the band at such an early stage, so um, I still feel like the underdog, I still feel like
No,
the,
I get what you
you know,
mean, but those songs are just as big as some of those stereophonic songs would have been at the time. Like you were just mental. You guys are Welsh as well, but maybe just the Welsh just make the best rock music. We got fan questions, mate. I had to
yeah.
not ask quite a lot of them because some people are mental. But Oliver2651 asks, why is there such, we touched this earlier, why is there such a reluctance to release unreleased stuff when the band were in their early days? The fans absolutely love the unreleased material.
And what reluctance? What would that? I don't. What do you mean reluctance to release them now, or reluctance
No, at the time, I
at the
guess, maybe with a
time?
balcony as B-sides or something like that, or well, they still haven't been released either. So,
Yeah, they were, well, like I touched on at the start of the conversation about us writing songs, and our mates were learning all the words, and they knew all the words, and then next week we'd learnt a new batch of songs, or within a few weeks we'd learnt a whole new batch of songs, because at that
mm,
point we were still finding our sound. what we thought was going to be Catfish and the Bottlemen sound, and you can hear influences of us growing and getting better as a band, but a lot of them were very, very rough recordings as well. A lot of them were recorded with Russ, who I've just been in with today. But there were a lot of them were live recordings as well. We were all in the same room together, and all recording in one, two, three takes max, and then overdubbing the vocals on top of that. So they were very rough. And then we didn't get a chance to record them again. Because we then went on to write other songs and take bits. We took parts from some of them as well and put them in other songs that made the album. So that made us then just sort of put them on the sideline even more, because we were like, well, we can't play that song anymore because we've already using a part out of it for another one. So yeah, it's frustrating, because I was frustrated with a few of those songs at the time, you know, because I used to love like songs like Lisa, and there was a song called Velvet and Ayatollah. You know, there's a local band that have called themselves Alabaster now that I'm actually going to be playing with this warm-up tour in Atherton, and they named it themselves after one of our B-sides, Alabaster. So it's the good thing is that, you know, and I don't know who put them on YouTube, but we used to give out the tracks on free CDs and stuff. So they were circulating. They just weren't released online, but they were circulating through physical copies of CDs and that. So whoever's had them for that long has put them on YouTube, and so they are out there for people to listen to now. I'm sure that Van will be, you know, fuming when if he sees what's going on, because he was one of them that was, you know, he instigated the I'm done with that song, we're moving on, I'm gonna write something better. So we were like, well, yeah, fine, and he was, you know, he was writing song after song, and it was difficult to keep on top of it all. But some of them songs, it is frustrating. I agree, Oliver. That, you know, I wish some of those did get released, or at least got reworked, and then got re-recorded as well.
Well, there's still time. There's still time.
Yeah.
Zyphon Reddit asks, the fate of Larry. Is this Larry called a lot of spoken? Is that something to do with that?
Larry, yeah, so Josh is his name. Well, yeah, don't know if anyone knows him as Josh, but yeah, Larry is what we called him. He was our roadie and good friends with Van, and my brother Steve as well. They were all in the same year together. So he joined the tour with us, maybe a couple of years before we got signed. Started lugging around the gear and things and helping us out, set up stuff, and then went on to be a bit of a cult hero, and I think he got quite a few followers on Instagram just before I left the band, because he was sort of bringing the guitar out for Van, and they'd make weird videos for social media, and he'd always be in them. But I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's happened there. He kind of deleted his social media, and
is he not with the band?
He doesn't seem to be around the band anymore now. No, so I presume maybe he's had the same sort of fate as.
It's crazy, isn't it? That early Catfish band that you're talking about, that was super interactive with bands, and you obviously had this cult stuff with Larry. It doesn't exist. It seems to just not exist anymore. It's just quite sad. I was nervous about asking that because I didn't really know what I was asking, but it had the most upvotes, so I had to ask it.
He's I mean, a lot of people obviously were fond of him because he was Van's best friend, and obviously since I left, he was a big part of it for many years as well. But I think the last few gigs they've done, the last couple of years since Bob and Bondi have left as well, he doesn't seem to have been a part of it. So whether he's done the same thing I don't know. He's not put out a statement or anything like that. He's just left social media and doesn't seem to be a part of that anymore. I presume the same thing's happened.
No, it must be.
But
At this point, it has to be.
I've not bumped into him at all. So I couldn't say what he's up to. But I hope he's doing all right.
Lukewarm Peppers asks, "What's your favourite song to play from the balcony?"
I mean,
you got to pick one. Don't be one of those people to say you have to pick one.
If I have to pick one, it has to be Tyrants. Has to be the last song.
Yes.
When we played that live, it was when we played it live. It never failed to just make the sort of hairs on the back of my neck stand up.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
song.
it was one of them songs that just to end the set, because we weren't happy about ending the set with just a song like a normal song which most bands end with. We were like, this is going to be the end of the set song, so we're going to make it as big as we can make it sound. And it was a song that he wrote that Van wrote when he was 15. So, you know, this was one of the early ones in terms of lyrically. Anyway, we adjusted it musically over the years, but in terms of lyrics, it was one of the very first songs from that album that was written. So it could have been, you know, with Van's form of throwing songs to the wayside quite easily. It could have been another one of them songs that got thrown away, but
glad it wasn't.
Luckily it held on because it was the end of set sort of thing, and it was like different from the other singles. So it was one that made the cut. But that is by far the song that I used to enjoy playing the most.
Yeah, they stopped playing that live as well until recently. They played the Spurs Stadium and closed it, which I was pissed off about because I went to the Millennium Stadium,
right?
And they didn't. And then 3 days later, they played Tyrants. I've never seen it live.
It's weird how they did that. Yeah, I don't know because they haven't played it for a few years.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking, oh, they've done it. That's their last ever gig, kind of thing, as people like to speculate. I was more just looking at it. I was like, you fucking knobhead. I was at the Millennium and you've gone to England to Spurs Stadium and played it there. I was fuming.
I don't blame you. I'm sure that was quite a few people were a bit pissed off with that. But yeah, that one and Pacifier. When I left the band and I saw videos back of them playing live and everybody was like singing, you know, and singing the riff, you know, everyone sings the lyrics, but for them to sing the riff.
When you've made a song, they say that when people sing the riff, you've made a masterpiece, do you know what I mean? So final question from the fans. E. Williams asks, there's rumours about Catfish playing Anfield or something this year. That's probably not true, but it did spark a question. A lot of people have heard this. They're going to ask you it. Can't see Bob or Bondi ever coming back, but if a letter turned up tomorrow and said, Billy, please come back to the band, would you accept it?
No, I wouldn't accept it as a like a full-time thing. I'd be happy to go back with the band with Bob and even Bondi if you wanted to join forces on the lead guitar and do a massive like homecoming gig, because that's one thing that's pissed me off about Catfish is they've never done a home gig since 2014. So
what is it kind of did now?
Yeah. Or even say like, I mean, we've had a few big artists play at a local sort of, it's called Arias Park in Colwyn Bay, which is only 10 minutes away.
Colwyn Bay,
it's basically like a stadium gig, you know, there that can be done. You know, people like Elton John and a few other people have done that. So there is the potential to play a homecoming gig to a lot of people close to us. So to never do that as kind of, that's annoying me a little bit. So it'd be
why do you message him? Ask him.
I don't know who I'm messaging.
No?
all the people that I know have left the band, so I've got no real contact in there. And I wouldn't do that anyway. I wouldn't be the one to instigate. It'd have to be them coming to me. But
someone needs to. Someone has to do it. Like, so, do you know what I mean? I get what you're saying.
yeah,
So that would be unbelievable if
yeah,
that did.
yeah. And like I said, if even if Bondi was involved, with both of us involved, I'd love to do a one-off or a few gigs like this, like maybe like the Stone Roses did with their gigs where they all got together for a few gigs. But no, I wouldn't join the band on a full-time basis. I mean, I don't know, they're not even really going full-time now, are they? They're just
No, I
doing.
know. Yeah.
So I don't know what the dynamics of that is now, but with the new members and things, I don't know what they're doing. They must be set down as session musicians. The two that replaced Bondi and Bob. But
That's Billy, by the way.
hi, Billy. Love it,
Just
love it.
anyone listening, I did name my dog after Billy Bibby.
You say Billy
Sorry,
Idol?
Karen, yeah. Billy Idol.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, he's
yeah.
been scratching my leg for about an hour, man.
Love it, love it.
But
Yeah,
that's it for the fan questions, mate. But if you've got some time, I've got some quick fire questions to end the interview.
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah.
Sweet, man. Okay, let's go. So I always do this every episode. So coffee or beer before a gig?
You say coffee or beer?
Before a gig, yeah.
It'd be a beer. Yeah, yeah,
Good, yeah, good choice. Thank
yeah.
God. First ever gig.
First ever gig, King's. I said before actually, King's Head, in
Oh
Llandudno.
no, is it? What was your first ever gig you ever attended? Someone else.
Oh, first ever attended. It was actually the Shadows, which is the backing band for Cliff Richard. When I was
I would
about,
not know that. Sorry, man. I wouldn't
yeah.
know that.
Well, you know the phrase, I'm Hank Marvin, I'm starving. The
Yeah, I've heard my mum say it, yeah.
Hank Marvin's the guitarist. So
Really?
yeah, and he used the Fender Stratocaster. He was actually the first person in the UK to play a Fender Stratocaster. Who was gifted the guitar by Cliff Richard, in the 50s. So he was the first one to ever own a Fender Stratocaster in the UK, and he was my sort of idol as a I was like 5 or 6. And my first guitar was a red Fender Stratocaster that was made by my granddad was a carpenter. Sorry, that it's supposed to be Quickfire.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, but the Shadows was my first gig. It was in a theatre in Lancashire somewhere.
Nice. Best ever gig? Was it that one?
No, um, best ever. Oh God, best ever gig. It wasn't. But I'm gonna say Oasis at Heaton Park 2009.
I mean, it's a pretty solid choice.
Yeah, I have to go for that. Even though I wouldn't say it would sound wise, it wasn't my best gig ever.
Was that when his voice was starting to go, or had
Yeah,
gone? Or...
yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
So it's more about the experience.
That was more the experience than maybe just to say that I've done it. But there's better gigs than that. If I had time to think, I could probably think. But
Well,
no,
it might come into your head. That's
Go
why
with
it's quickfire. You know, we get
Yeah.
the dirty stuff out of you, mate.
Go with
Did you
that.
go to one of the recent
No.
Oasis gigs?
No, I
I
tried
went
to
to
get
the.
tickets, but stuck in a queue for fucking hours. So I just
Oh,
just
mate,
left
it was
it.
outrageous. I just
Yeah,
love like the former guitarist of Catfish going through the same shit as we were, man. Like I was
yeah.
literally sat there for ages.
I think
Somehow managed to
I
get
think
some.
some massive celebrities were they couldn't they were trying to get tickets and couldn't get them. It was like
Mate,
yeah,
I paid
yeah.
500 quid.
It's crazy. The prices are mental. I mean, I was Bob the guitar the old drummer from Catfish. Obviously good mates with him now. And Catfish had Oasis's management. The actual the manager that had been with Oasis
What?
from the
What is
start.
in balcony era?
Marcus Russell, yeah. No, not
Marcus Russell.
Marcus
Yeah,
Russell. Yeah,
yeah.
so he's good friends with Marcus is Bob. So I said, can he can he sort us out some Oasis tickets? And he was like, no.
Yeah, he's probably been asked by fucking everyone. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
no chance. So Bob was like, if the Oasis any of the Oasis drummers ever get ill or whatever, do you want to give me a call? So Bob could have been drumming for Oasis.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Favorite thing about touring?
Um, it's boring, but actually playing the gigs, that's the best bit. Even though it's a few
Fair
percentage
enough.
with the actual being on tour, just playing live, um, and yeah, just meeting the people as well after gigs is
Mm,
great.
nice. Worst thing about touring?
A lot of people are going to say traveling, aren't they? And traveling is one, but I do enjoy traveling. If you've got music
Mm,
on in the car, it's quite it's quite therapeutic. I
mm,
like it. I don't mind a distance journey.
fair enough.
Um,
Most underrated band or musician? Billy, Bibby, and the Rice Miles.
yeah, they're up there. Rob Rob Jones, my guitarist for the Rice Miles. He's in a band called Sustainea,
Okay.
and they've been going now for a good nearly 10 years themselves. They started not long after the Rice Miles, but he came on board as my lead guitarist for the Rice Miles. Um, and he could play anything on the guitar. He's fucking brilliant. So he's underrated as a guitarist. Along with, I'll shout out my other Rice Miles guitarist Tom Hill as well. He's brilliant. I've played with some great musicians after Catfish as well as the guys in Catfish. So very very privileged to play with some great guys. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
Do you know what? The next question, yeah, I feel like you're too nice of a guy to answer this at this point. Who's the most overrated band or musician?
Overrated. Uh,
I'll give mine first, right? Some people hate me for it. Monkeys, can't stand them.
no, not for me. Not for me. I mean, not for me, as in I don't agree with you.
Yeah, most people don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I kind of get
Mm,
I do get it in a way, but when the first album came out, I was 16, so it was
mm,
that kind of time in life where and personally, I think I can understand why people might be a bit thingy on the music, but in terms of lyrically, I think he's very, very clever with the way he puts lyrics together. And the latest stuff of the Arctic Monkeys frustrates me because
oh,
it's very contrived and it just the way he sings frustrates me now.
yeah.
But the early stuff and how raw it was and I think lyrically as well, I think he was a master of lyrics. So I do appreciate the first three or four albums, but I get that, but that definitely wouldn't be my choice. Probably overrated. Oh God, I can't do that. I can't do that quick fire.
Fine, mate.
I mean,
You
I've,
could
I've already, I've
pass.
already, I've
We could
already
pass.
lost the
It's fine.
quick
I
fire.
gave one as well. I gave an answer. It's all good. But right, let's go back to positive questions.
Mm,
Most iconic frontman of all time.
Elvis.
Love that answer. I've actually got T TCB here, mate.
I've got
That's his
TCB on my
necklace.
finger
No,
there.
you really?
Yeah,
That's sick. My brother's got on his arm too. Nice, mate.
yeah,
We get along. You'd love
yeah.
my mum. Well, my mum would love you more like. Um,
Yeah, huge, biggest
don't
fan of
tell
Elvis.
Van McCann that.
Yeah.
A band you wish you could have seen in their prime.
Oasis, yeah. Even though I did see them at Heaton Park, if you'd have seen them
Was
in
in
the
their
early
prime,
night,
I
if
guess.
if I
Yeah.
could have seen them in the early '90s when Liam Gallagher's voice was on it, I would choose that because like in a small venue. I mean, I actually went to see Liam Gallagher when he came back as a solo artist, and it was in Amsterdam, and it
Hmm.
was only in a 1,000 cap arena, and you got a taste of how good it would have been, just in a small place to hear those Oasis songs. So yeah, I'd go for that.
Best debut album of all time. Mine is the Stone Roses self-titled, which
Very
you
good,
wouldn't guess. Wouldn't guess
very very good,
by the
very
title.
good. Yeah, very good first album. Great guitar playing on that from
Hmm.
John Squire as well.
Is there anything that
Um,
springs to your mind? like as a debut album, other than the Balcony, obviously?
um, I love the Strokes' first album. It's just
Oh, it's
fucking.
such a good album.
It's recorded on I don't know, like a tape player or something. I don't know what it's been recorded on, but it's awful. But that's what makes it so good. And the songs themselves are brilliant songs.
No, they're quality. They're just a great band. Secret
Yeah.
hobby of yours?
Secret hobby.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
this
not that you keep it secret,
this
but
flag behind me. I like doing hybrid races. And
yeah, I saw
I'll
you done the high rocks on your
yeah,
Instagram.
I do a lot of high roxes, and this one flag behind me is a local one. And they've really they've from the first one they did a couple of years ago to the ones they're doing now. They're
Hmm.
selling a good 1,000 tickets or so. A good 1,000 athletes are taking part. So they're brilliant, and they're great lads that run it as well. So big shout
Hmm.
out to Hybrid X, Rob and Jack.
Nice. And finally, mate, self-reflective question. If you could go back to the start, young Billy, and you did know, what advice would you give yourself?
Um, I just say what I say to all young musicians and artists that message me on Instagram saying, "Oh, we were inspired by the Catfish guitar playing and stuff like that, or the albums." Um, and I just say the reason is to you do it in the first place is because you enjoy it and you're having fun. So don't ever lose that fun side of it. Once that goes, then you have to sort of strip everything back and go back to the way you were before, when you're enjoying it. So don't ever lose that enjoyment from it. I would say simple as that, really.
It's a great answer. Billy, thank you, man, for coming on. This has been
Thank you.
amazing for me as a massive Catfish fan. Everyone listening, I said it earlier. Billy is doing the balcony tour May and June from Liverpool to London to Manchester to Wrexham and eventually Cardiff. Promise me you'll come to Cardiff so I can
Yeah,
catch a show.
we've not got it down, but that is one we're looking at, definitely. Yeah.
For sure, man. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for coming on, mate. And we'll keep in touch, man. But yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Cheers, Gary. Thank you,
See you
mate.
later, bud.
See
See
you,
you later,
pal.
mate. Bye bye.